Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Tennessee Liquid. On today's episode, we're going to be painting Tsireya from the movie Avatar: The Way of the Water. Now, my mom is a giant Avatar fan, and she loves these movies. So this model was painted specifically for her. But on today's episode, I'm going to be giving you a few tips and tricks on how to make stencils using your very own computer for making the stripes that are on her body. And something that I have never done before in any of my models was I put lights in a model. How cool is that? And I will show you how to do it, and you can go on an adventure with me. So without further ado, let's jump on into that video. Starting off with the base, I wanted to do something a little bit different with this model. She's supposed to be setting in water, and I thought it would be kind of cool to print it in all clear blue. And then when I got it finished, I thought, well, the best way I'm going to be able to do this is just cut the bottom out of it. So I cut the living daylights out of this bottom, and I left the centerpiece in it because I thought, well, that just gives support to your model sitting on top of it. And you can't really see it once you get the model sitting on it. It's not too bad noticeable. Now, to put my LED strips in, I had to cut a little notch in the back of it, because if you've ever messed with LED strips, they're somewhere around 1/4 inch or 3/8 wide. And I got these at my local Walmart, and I think I picked them up for a couple of bucks, $5 or $6. And the good thing with these is you can cut them in certain places to make them any length you want them. So they come in a 6-foot length, and I don't really need 6 foot, but I don't really know how much I need, so it's a good thing you can just cut them. And later on in the video, I'll show you how I install these things, but we got to get this thing painted first. Oh, and one more thing before I forget. I couldn't figure out how to cover up the hole in the bottom because I didn't want you to be able to just flip it over and see the lights. And I remembered I have an A1 bamboo printer, so I just drawed me up a circle and printed me out a little base here to where when I get done, I just glue it on. And just like that, hole is covered up. Now let's go ahead and get some paint thrown on this model. Before I started painting, I did come back and sand all the blue that you're not going to be painting with a really fine sandpaper. If you've ever messed with clear resin, you know that you have to sand it with really fine sandpaper in order to make it look clear. And then after I got done with the sandpaper, I come back with a really fine Scotch-Brite pad and scuffed it up really good. And then I started putting some paint on it. I started off by putting a flat brown on all the places that was not going to be water, because there's like rocks and stuff shooting out of the water and all sitting all around it. So you want to paint them brown first, but be careful because there are some water spots on the side of the base that you don't want to paint brown. And for the sake of time, I just jumped to where I had it all painted because this did take a little while. Now after I got all that done, I did eventually have to come back and add 2 coats because you want it pretty thick, because you don't want your light to be able to shine through it in spots that are thinner. So I went ahead and just done 2 coats just to be on the safe side. Now on the bottom, it had a different color on it. Kind of, I'm gonna call it a raft. Like it's sitting on a raft. I don't really know why it's there, but it looks like it's a raft and it's a different color brown. So I come back with a really bright color brown to make it kind of look like a little wood and to separate the color some. Now after all that dried, I did come back and add the lights to the bottom of it just to check and make sure to see if I had any light spots that I'd have to come back and repaint. And it did take a little bit, but I eventually got it and it come out pretty good, I think. After all that gets dry, it's really important that you use a clear gloss over your clear. And this goes for any clear color, just clear in general. You want to use a clear gloss. You don't want to use a matte, because then that's just going to make it foggy. And that's the reason for you sanding it really good with fine grit sandpaper. And the more coat you put on, the clearer it gets. Now this particular one, I put about 4 coats on before I started doing my dry brush, and it looked pretty good. As you can tell that it's already looking good. Now the reason I sprayed the gloss before I done my dry brushing, I didn't want my rocks to be too shiny. And as an added bonus, if you get some of the brown from your dry brush on the blue because of your gloss clear coat, you can just take a wet rag and just wipe it right off. Makes it pretty nice for not getting it all over the place. Now I come back in with some deck tan. Now deck tan is not white and it's not gray. It's somewhere kind of in between. But I took the deck tan and come back and hit a little bit of the high spots just to give it a little bit more definition and a little different look to your rock. And the good thing with these rocks, you can make them look how you want to, because this is on an alien planet and no one knows what the rocks look like on an alien planet. They could be all different colors. So just have fun with your dry brush. Now moving on to what I would say the hardest part of the entire model. Now around the bottom of the base had these little bamboo shoot things. These little sticks stuck up everywhere. And man, I ain't kidding you. These things took me forever. So that's the reason I skipped to the end. I mean, it took me at least an hour to paint these little doodads. And my hand got to hurting and everything. So if you're gonna paint these things, just make sure that you get some food in you and you get something to drink, because you're gonna be sitting here a little while painting these little sticks. But once you get them done, it looks good. And once everything is said and done, it makes the model look so much better around the bottom. But it did take a while, but it was well worth the time to do it. And when you get done, you want to make sure you go around and get any spots that you might have missed as you went around the thing. And except for the lights, you can now call this base done. Starting off with the skin. Now she is supposed to have blue skin, and I've never done blue skin before, so this is all new to me. So I started off with a zenithal highlight like you would normal skin, except after this you're supposed to put some pink and some red on to give kind of color to the skin. but she's supposed to be blue, so I didn't do that. So I just went from this to blue. Now I couldn't decide on what color blue that I wanted. I flip-flopped between several different colors of blue, and I finally settled on a sunrise blue. Now I don't know why this is called a sunrise blue. I've never really seen a sunrise have blue in it, but maybe it does. I don't know. But that's what this is called, and that's the color that I painted. Moving on to her stripes. Now I didn't really know how to paint her stripes, so I just decided to make a stencil. And to make a stencil, I just went on Google and Googled tiger stripes and put it in a paint program and shrunk it down to the size I needed, which I think this one is a 2x2 pattern. And what you want to do is, first of all, you want to get something to cut on, because you will be cutting into this with a knife. And then after you get your stencil printed, you want to come back and put a coat of clear tape on the top and on the back, because you want your stencil to be waterproof when you paint it, and you can rub excess paint off of it. And if you don't do this, then the paint will just stick to the paper and just make a giant mess. And after you get all your black parts cut out of your stencil, you want to come back in and take a ruler or something straight and just cut out a line. And I think I've done a 1/2 inch around each side of this. That way you have a thick side and a thin side. That way you can get it into the nooks and crannies and wherever you need your stencil to be at. And then after you get all that done, then it's done. And then you're ready to start painting stripes. The hardest part about using a stencil is trying to figure out how to hold the dadgum thing. So I started off on a scrap piece. This is a leg that I had from one of my previous models that was just laying around in scrap. So I decided that I was going to try to practice on this thing before I went to my actual model. And I think it come out pretty good. Now to do this, you want to turn your air compressor down to about 15 to 20 pounds and spray it lightly. You don't want to spray super heavy, just spray it lightly, because you're going to get the color that you're wanting with just light coats, and it does all right. I started off painting the arms and the tail first because I felt like those would be the easiest parts. And then I moved on to the little harder part was the body. And it took a few times to get this the way I wanted it, but you're going to come back and put a highlight over this anyway. So just keep that in mind when you're spraying. And if you mess up, you can always come back with your sunrise blue and spray over it again and just do it again. And you just keep doing it till you get the look of the stripes that you want. Oh, and one more helpful hint that I'm not going to charge for is after you get through spraying each piece, you want to lay your stencil down and I used a tissue paper and just dab off the excess paint that is on the stencil. That is the reason you put the clear tape on it. And that way it doesn't pile up and accidentally get on the rest of your model. And when you're spraying, try not to get the square ends where your stencil stops and it's just a square blunt end, because it doesn't look good. I had a few of them and I had to go back and fix. And then the second part about doing a stencil is I don't really have 4 hands, and you really need at least 3. And so I used the extra piece of scrap that I had that I practiced on to set this on to get all the spots and just make it a little easier on me spraying. And then you want to come back with that same sunrise that you sprayed the light blue with, and mix just a little bit of white in it. Not very much at all. Maybe a drop or two, just to give it just a little bit brighter color. And you want to come back and hit the highlights, like the top of the shoulder, the center of the chest, the center of the back, the tops of the legs, you know, just like where if sun was actually hitting her. Now you don't want to spray this super heavy, because you want to leave some of the stripe coming through. That way it looks like the stripe is still there, but it's got paint on top of it, and you can still see it, if that makes sense. Maybe you can make some sense out of that rambling. With the stripes done, now it's time to move on. Not the hardest part, but the most time consuming was her shirt, because her shirt was kind of like a fishnet type thing, and it had skin coming through it, and it had different colors on it. Like some of the string was blue, some of it was brown, some of it was like a turquoise color. So, and then you had some white mixed in with it. So this was the most time consuming part of this whole model. Even worse than the little sticks that was on the base. And I didn't show all of it, so I just jumped ahead to where I was pretty close to being done, because this did take a while, and I didn't feel like you needed to watch 45 minutes to an hour of me painting this shirt. So it come out really good. And for some reason my camera got to messing up that day, and it didn't record me painting the brown. But I took a brown and had to go around and paint all the things that I thought should be brown. Like, and I'm guessing they're probably a leather color. And it also didn't get me. I took that same brown and painted the cloth thing that I'm gonna say is her pants, because she doesn't really have pants. She has this little cloth loin thing. So I painted it brown as well. And then you want to come back with a white. Now she had these white pearls on these strings on her shirt, and then this big shell looking thing in the center of her chest. So I just took this white and painted it white. And then I took a sky blue, which is just a little bit different color than her skin, and she had these light blue strings on the top of her shirt. So this took a few minutes because you couldn't hardly see them because of the dark color, but I managed to get them in there and they come out good. I know I went through that pretty quick, so I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of the colors that I used and where they went. And there's a few colors that was on where my camera messed up and I didn't get to show that. But here's a quick rundown and where they went and what I painted. With the body done, now it's time to move on to the final piece, the head. I started off by painting her hair, and man, she's got some messy hair. This did take me a while because her hair is just all over the place. There's all kinds of little nooks and crannies and everything to get into, and you got to make sure that you get all the black in the nooks and the crannies, because where I sprayed the blue, it made it real super light. So you got to cover all that up. And I got the bottom part of her hair colored and painted. Then I had to set it aside and wait for it to dry so that I wouldn't get black anywhere else that I didn't want black. And I didn't get to show this, but at the top of her loincloth, I painted it black, which went all the way around her body. And that continued on down through her tail. So while that was drying, I went ahead and painted the bandage wrap thing that went around her tail black. Another free tip I'm going to give you is watch where you put your hands, because if you noticed on tip end of this tail, I accidentally had some on my finger that I didn't know about, and I touched the end of my tail with it. So in order to fix that, I had to go back and paint it all blue and do all the stripes and everything all over again just to get rid of that one little mishap that was on my finger. That's free of charge. So just be careful where you put your hands. And after I got all that finished, now it's time to move on to the head. I started off by using some white to paint her teeth. You can see just a little bit of teeth in there, so you don't want to use much, just a little, and it's there, and that's all you want to use. And after spending all that time painting her teeth, now it's time to move on to the eyes. Now your eyes, you want to take your time and just do them right, because if your eyes come out weird, then it'll just make your whole model look weird. So just take your time and just make your eyes look good. And I know eyes can be a daunting task for a lot of people, but if you just take your time, you can get it. They're pretty simple. The hardest part about eyes is just to make sure that they're looking in the right direction. And what I done is I just took a black and I went around the outside of her eyes. Now I didn't go all the way around her eyes because I thought it would just look a little weird on this character, but most of the time I do. And then I moved on to this thing in her hair. Now I don't know if this was a band that went around her head or actually part of her hair. It kind of looks like the rest of her hair, so I just decided I'm gonna paint it black, and that's what I did. Whether it's supposed to be black or not, it's black now. Her lips was a funny looking color. They was kind of like a purplish blue color. So I used this color that I used here, and I don't even know how to pronounce this, and I'm not even going to try because I'm going to totally mess it up. But I used it on her lips and the inside of her ears. Lips is another thing that you want to take your time on, because you can get them too big and it doesn't fit the model. And if you get them too small, then it just makes it look like something's wrong. So just take your time, just like you do with the eyes. Just take your time and get them to look right. Now for the white parts of your eyes, you don't want to use pure white. I use an off-white because your eyes are not white. They're kind of an off shade. So use just an off-white in the inside of your eyes. Now for the pupil, I took a pencil and drawed the direction that I wanted her eyes, just to make sure that I get them the way that I want them before I start painting them. Lucky for this model, she had giant blue eyes, and giant eyes are a lot easier to paint than little eyes to me. And in this case, they worked out perfect. I wanted her eyes to be really bright blue, and because I felt like if she's in the water, they need to be really bright blue. The words are hard, guys. Bright blue. And so I used this color, which is really super bright. Now you want to make sure that it's the same size on both sides, or it just ain't gonna come out right. Now you want to take a lighter color blue. I use this electric blue because I really like this color. And you want to paint the inside of the dark blue, but you want to leave just a little bitty rim of the dark blue on the outside all the way around to simulate the different color blues. Now you can take with eyes this big and use your brush strokes. Don't paint them solid, kind of paint them with little slashes, kind of like you would eyebrows, and it makes it look a little bit better when you go to put your black in the middle of them. Now your black is very super important, because if this is what will determine which way your character will look. If you get one looking one way and one looking the other way, it's just gonna look weird. So you don't want your eyes to look weird. So make sure, take your time and make sure that your black part of your pupil is both looking in the same direction, just so it don't look weird. And then when you get your black, you can come back and touch up around your blue if you need to, and make it look just a little bit more crisp and better. And then when you get that done, you want to come back with just a small of a specular highlight of pure white in the corners of their eye. And then when all that's done, you want to come back in with a gloss clear coat and put over the eyes and the lips, because those are the parts that would need to be the wettest and make them look like they're wet. And you can achieve that by doing gloss clear coat. And the last thing you need to do is, if you've ever watched the movie Avatar, you know that they have these things in their hair that they can connect to the animals that they ride and they talk to through these things in their hair. I don't know what they're called, but they're there and they use them. And you need to paint this a blue color. And I wanted to mix the filler, metal filler, in with the blue just to kind of give it a metallic look. And then you can call this model done. I almost forgot the lights. I forgot to show you how I put the lights in. Now I used a hot glue gun on these, and there may be better ways of doing it, but this is the way I thought would work the best. Because these lights come with their own sticky tape, but it doesn't stay very well. So I just hot glued them, and it works really good. Now if you look on your tape, you have these little copper looking bar things to where it tells you can cut. You just get the lights that you want in there, and you just cut them off, and da-da. And then you turn it over and put the bottom on it, the black bottom that I made. You put that on it, and then you can put your lights on it and try it out. Now my camera didn't like some of the colors, but you can change colors in all these. And then once you get this done, then you can call the model done. And here we are at the end of another video. This has been a fun adventure to have, and I hope you got a little bit of something out of it along the way. And I would like to say thank you to all my subscribers. We are over 400 now, pushing for 5 is my new goal. And it is because of you are the reason that I do this and keep on doing it. So help me get on up there to 500 and keep on going. And don't forget to like and share my video. And if you hadn't subscribed to me yet, now is your time to shine. Go ahead and smash that button right now. And remember, treat people the way you want to be treated. Until the next time, y'all come back now, you hear?